Unemployment in 2009. Will Poles be losing jobs next year, or will a slowly growing economy support the labor market? Tax gift under the Christmas tree and December salary after New Year's Eve. The pain and gain of income tax changes. And harvesting tradition. How fish farms cash in before Christmas Eve. Welcome back to Business Poland. I'm Roman Młotkowski, and in today's episode I'll invite you for a traditional holiday walk around Warsaw's Old Town. As we'll walk, we'll wonder if other folks walking around here will be happy throughout 2009 as they're happy about Christmas season. To figure that out, we'll start with unemployment forecast for next year for Poland.
In the past few weeks, this line of work has seen no slowdown. But at a time when experts say the air is being let out of the economy, many wonder, will Polish employers reduce jobs or hire more workers? International firm Manpower posed that question to 750 companies in Poland. Fewer employers say they're likely to hire new workers than just a quarter ago. Data collected by Manpower shows that in several European countries, employers share a rather gloomy perspective for the first quarter of next year. In Ireland and Spain, for example, 17% of employers expect to lay off workers. In the UK, the number is 10%, and in Italy, 14%. However, in Poland, only 7% of companies expect a decline in employment, while 19% still believe it will increase. That's about 14 percentage points less than it was only 9 months ago. However, many Poles have gone abroad to work, so will the slowdown mean that they return home? We expect within the next 12 months about 1,000 Poles will come back to Poland seeking jobs. And of those returning, it's said that many of them are bankers, engineers, and computer scientists. If it's true, Poland could see around 70,000 workers flocking back to their home country. According to experts, due to the global slowdown, unemployment is expected to rise some 1 to 3 percentage points in Poland, which means 500,000 people could lose their jobs in Poland next year. According to Manpower, it's the construction sector that expects the biggest increase in employment in Poland, 23%. But if we look at the second quarter 2008, when Manpower first polled employers, we see a drop of 27 percentage points overall. While the slowdown means fewer jobs for some branches of the economy, this CEO of an architecture firm doesn't think they'll be hit hard. This year we saw employment grow around 15%, but next year we think it will be around 10%. Employment in the industrial sector is expected to increase only 6% in Q1 of 2009, whereas Q2 of 2008, the survey showed a 30% expected increase. Hardest hit may be the farming and fishing industries, where they expect to face a 7% decrease in employment in Q1 of 2009. The slowdown will probably hit the small companies first, and small companies represent over 60% of the Polish market. And what else besides employment will take a hit? Salaries. Experts say they expect salary growth to be overall lower in 2009. I don't think anyone could even dream of double-digit salary increases like we saw in 2008. However, experts do point out that it is unlikely that wages will fall, if at all. And all the better, since in the new year, Poles should have more money in their pockets due to a decrease in the tax rates.
This holiday season is particularly happy to those who pay high taxes, as Poland is moving from 3 taxation levels at 19%, 30% and 40% to only 2 taxation levels at 18% and 32%. So here's how much Poles will save due to that, and why some companies are planning to pay December salaries in January.
This year, Polish companies may give their workers an unusual gift by deciding to pay their December wages in January. It sounds a bit odd, but true because of new lower taxes set to start in January of 2009. In January, the tax scale in Poland will be only 18% and 32%, whereas right now it's 19%, 30% and 40%. For some, this could mean big savings. Employees who get paid in January instead of December will legally pay taxes according to the new tax scale. To illustrate, an employee whose gross salary is around 12,000 zloty or 3,000 euro currently pays as much as 40% tax. After the tax reform, they would pay only 32%. If the salary is paid in December instead of January, the savings would be around 1,500 zloty or roughly 380 euro. Those who earn 7,000 zloty or roughly 1,800 euro pay 30% tax. From January, the tax bracket will be lowered to 18%. By delaying payment of their salaries, that means a profit of around 700 zloty or just under 200 euro. Surprising as it may seem, this isn't illegal. According to the Polish Labor Code, salaries must be paid no later than the 10th day of the following month. However, some companies have their own rules and pay their employees no later than the 29th day of the month the work was completed.
Według mnie jest to rzeczywiście.
In such a case where the company has an established rule of paying before the end of the month, postponing the payday is against the tax law. The company should stick to its own internal regulations.
W regulaminie płac.
Yet there's a way around even that. Employees can make a verbal or written request to have their payday postponed and save the money.
Jeżeli do takiej sytuacji miałoby dojść, to z
If the
punktu
employee
widzenia
is the
i
one
ochrony
requesting the later
pracownika i
pay
pracodawcy
date
w tym
and he
przypadku,
keeps the evidence of his
sądem
claim,
byłoby
it's not
udokumentowanie
violating
takiej
tax
decyzji,
law.
która pomiędzy nimi w ten sposób została podjęta.
And income tax laws in Poland haven't been touched for around 16 years, so it's no surprise that taxpayers are trying to make the most of the savings, especially when they expect smaller wage increases in 2009.
So the personal income tax goes down for many Poles, particularly the rich ones. Unfortunately, capital gains tax stays at the level it was, 19%. As we walked through Old Town of Warsaw, we reached Market Square. So let's ask ourselves, what markets will bring us money in 2009? For the answers, we turned to some analysts.
When we talk about the infrastructure, this is going to be a relatively good year for many reasons. One of the reasons is that the government will do its best to accelerate the infrastructural investments so as to compensate for the fall of other investments. And this will be the projects pursued within the Euro 2012. This will be also the projects related to typical infrastructure such as roads.
Next year is going to be hard to make money on anything, but there will be a couple of sectors that might actually be a source of hope for those that want to either make money or lose the least. And I think there are three sectors. One would be food industry, which always does relatively well during downturns because people simply have to continue to eat. Second, IT business. I think a lot of companies will want to cut costs to weather the downturn, and these companies will want to introduce new software and new IT systems that will allow them to restructure and lower the cost base. And third, I think that consulting business will do well. They almost always do well. They do well in bull markets. They do well in bear markets, and they will help companies restructure. They will consult them on what exactly needs to be done to stay competitive, to cut costs, and weather the storm as well as possible.
I think that what will be the anchor for growth for the next year will be the services. Services will slow down substantially. The growth of services now is somewhat above 5%, but next year they are pretty likely to slow for 3 to 4%. But this will be the engine of growth, because the market services, the share of market services in the value added is 50%, and this is the services that will drive the economy up. And the economy will be driven down by the industrial production. The growth of construction may be close to zero. But the services, this is something that is going to be a driver. And again, a carefully selected investment, for instance, in the internet infrastructure, may be a very fruitful one. I think that these are the branches, these are the sectors that are likely to develop, because this is the long run process. This country has to catch up somehow in terms of, for instance, saturation of the market for internet, which is extremely low. We have one of the lowest figures for the whole European Union. So This is where the investments will concentrate.
Time of crisis is a time of creative destruction. The weakest companies go down, the strongest survive, and those are the companies that will spare productivity growth in the future. So that's good for the economy. And a lot of companies will turn to IT as a source of competitive advantage, as a way of cutting costs and staying through the crisis.
And in case none of the markets we've mentioned would be of any interest to you, why don't you just get involved in regional food production and sales or souvenirs production, which sell very well during holiday season. But seriously, there's one seasonal business which is reaping really nice profits around Christmas, and this is fish farming with a special kind of fish very popular on Christmas Eves in Poland.
Carp, the most popular fish in traditional Polish Christmas Eve meals, often served in pork jelly or in a slightly sweet sauce. It's not only a feast for Christmas guests, but also a great business opportunity for fish farmers, because in Poland, their peak season is at Christmas time, when they make 95% of their annual sales. And wholesale prices of carp in 2008 are just slightly cheaper than in 2007. Last year, some big producers were left with unsold carp. They simply didn't manage to sell them. That's why this year the prices may be a bit lower. But lower prices in wholesale doesn't mean lower prices for consumers. Experts say that retailers will try to earn more on cheaper fish, some raising their margins as high as 20%. But there's also some good news for these so-called farmers of fish, because even though they had to lower the prices this year, sales of these popular fish on the market have risen. Unfortunately, the production costs are also higher. We may not be directly affected by the crisis, but unfortunately the costs of production are much higher than last year. As experts point out, even though the prices of fuels and fish food have fallen, the cost of electricity has increased. The breeding cycle is around 3 years, and that's where our costs come from, keeping them warm and fed for at least 2 winters. This year, the production of carp increased by 500 tons, up to 18.5 thousand tons total. But the results are still far from records set back in the year 2000, and as shown on the graph, ever more popular in Poland is the fish trout. As it turns out this year, not only the trout farmers stand to gain, but also food processors. People don't have time to cook these days, and that's why they buy more ready-to-eat fish. But no matter what happens in the market, good or bad, the carp doesn't really care.
And that's all in Business Poland this week. From all our team here in Poland in TVN CNBC Business, we wish you happy holidays and against all odds, all crises, Happy New Year. Before we meet again, stay tuned to CNBC.